Hi, this is Gary with GEEZBEEZ. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about various parts of your hives and what you would need to get started if you wanted to start your own apiary. And I guess I'll start out with the bees. When you get your bees, there's a couple of ways you can do it, and most beekeeping they say is local, and I totally agree with that. So my suggestion is to get a 5-frame nuke. It'll usually come in a little plastic box. Some of them are wooden, some of them are cardboard, some of them are styrofoam, lots of different ways they sell them. They generally run from $150 to $200 and it'll usually be from a local beekeeping source. You'll have 5 frames in here. You'll have a couple of good brood frames, sometimes 3 frames of brood on it, and your queen will already be laying and established in there. So you will take these 5 and you'll put them in your 10-frame brood box or 8-frame or whatever you're using. I use 10-frame. And so they're already established, they're already going. She's already laying, you know, you got a good laying queen. They've already got some wax built out on their combs. They've already got some food in their stores. And so they start out really well and do a good job for you. The other way, which I have done too, when I first started, I used to buy packages of bees, and they generally run, they're about the same price range. Generally, they're about $150 to $200 also. And you'll get them in this little box, this screened box, and it'll have a can. You'll take this lid off. There will be a can right here with food in it. And there will be a queen. You can see where they stapled her on top here with a strap, and they'll usually strap her inside of here, and the queen will be inside of this little cage, and one end of it's blocked off, and the other end will normally have a cork and candy in it, and you will place that in between your frames, and they will eat the candy out, get used to her, they'll accept her normally, and they'll let her out, and she will come out, and you will shake your 3 pounds of bees into your brood box. So we'll explain what a brood box is and all those things, but that's how you get your bees normally. Or you could buy a working colony from someone. Be a little more expensive, but you could do it that way. But that's generally how you get it. Either you buy your 3-pound package of bees, and the thing about the package is they're going to have to draw all their frames out, which is a lot for them to do. So I really like going the nuke route. It's a more established route. It'll be local bees, used to your area, and that's the way I like to go. Now, so we'll start with the bottom boards. The bottom boards, which I made this bottom board out of lumber that I actually, limbs that I cut down, and I took it on my table saw and just made the boards. That's one way you can save some money. If you buy them, you can buy a solid bottom board like this one, or you can buy a screen bottom board. Either way, there's people who like the screen, people who like this. Either way, whatever you like. And you also will have an entrance reducer so that you'll reduce the amount of bees that can come in. If you're in, you know, if your bees are new, they're not real big, they're not real strong, I use the smaller. During a flow time, I use the larger. And so that just sits in here, and you will take the next piece will be your brood box, your brood chamber. I use deeps. Some people use mediums. The deeps are quite a bit bigger than the mediums in size of the frame. So you'll get more bees on here. And I like to use the deeps. And you will put that on the bottom board, and you will let them fill that out. Normally you'll have, 4 or 5 brood frames, and they'll start putting their honey in their stores on the outside. And when they get to 6 frames, 7 frames, then they're built out enough to put another double, because I run double deeps. And you'll put another double on top, and they will bring that out. In springtime, normally you can get them to fill this out, and then I use a queen excluder. Some people use them, some people don't. You don't have to. I just like the ease of not getting any brood into my honey, and the ease that I know that the queen's down in these two boxes. And so you'll put that queen excluder on top if you decide to use one. And then once the honey flow starts and they get those bottoms filled out, I use mediums. Some people use shallows. Shallows are just about 1.5 inches or so shallower. You just get less honey on there, so you're stacking more boxes. I really like the mediums because I can fit more in my extractor. And so then you'll stack it up, and once they get, you know, about 3/4 filled out, put another on. So that's about 60 pounds of honey right there. If you decide to run all deeps, which you can do, some people do, you're looking at about 90 to 100 pounds on these deeps. So I run the mediums because it's a little bit lighter when you go to pull the honey off, and it's a little bit easier to handle. So you're going to need those, or your basics on your hive. And I also run, and some people do, some people don't, I also run an inner cover, because with the telescoping lid, and the reason is if you just put the telescoping lid they glue it down, and you really have a hard time. You have to get your hive tool under here and pry that out. Makes it really hard. So your inner cover, when you take that off, all you have to do is pry your inner cover off with your hive tool. And so, and you can also put feeders and things on top of your inner cover depending on which one you have. So you've got your telescoping lid, your inner cover, and that is your complete hive unit. Now, some people just run single deeps. I like running doubles because exponentially, when you have these both full of bees, you will produce a lot more. Like if you just had one hive, one deep, and a deep over here, and you had 2 hives, you'll produce more in this double deep than you would those 2 hives. So exponentially, you want more bees in that hive. So I really suggest doing the double deeps. Then when you get to your personal gear, you're going to want to get you some gloves. These are actually vented gloves. You're going to want a pair of gloves. You're going to want to get a suit. Some people like the fencing style. Some people like the round style. This is a fencing style suit. It's also a vented suit, so it's not as hot in the summertime. So now that you've got everything you need, basically set your hive up. We won't forget about the smoker. If you get a smoker, get the biggest one you can. This is 11 inches, made by Dadent. They have an excellent smoker. They stay lit real well. I really suggest this smoker. Get you a hive tool. I really like this hive tool because it has a J hook on it. It also separates your frames here, and you can pry your frames up better with that J hook. So it's kind of an all-in-one. It's got a nail puller on it. I really like this one too, but there's lots of different types, and you'll decide what kind you want. Now that we've got everything we need, we're going to run out and go outside and check out the bee yard and where to locate your hive once you get all this stuff together. Okay, we're back outside, and just wanted to let you know what I do with my bees. I have them up on stands. Keeps the skunks out of them, keeps animals from messing with them. And so I've got mine up about 24 inches. People suggest about 18 inches is right. Some of mine are 18, some are 24. If you get them too tall, it's kind of hard to get your supers off. So I do put them on that stand, and I face mine south-southeast. That seems to work the best for me. If you can have a southern facing, that's what they suggest, and I do face all mine south. Also, if you can put it in an area that you can mow pretty easily, and that's important, to be able to mow and not bother the bees too much, to where you don't just have to keep it totally mowed all the time. And also water source. We have a water source about 25 yards to the east here, and about 50 yards to the south I have a creek. Water source is important. If you don't have a good water source where you're at, you can use a kiddie pool. Just make sure and put some boards or some rocks. A lot of people use bird baths with rocks in it, you know, to where they have a constant source of water that they can go to, and they'll get used to it, and you'll set that up, and they'll do well with it. So that's what I suggest on where to put the bees, is southern facing, in the light, preferably as much sunlight as you can get. The darker it is, you'll have more trouble with your hive beetles. So if you can get it in sunlight, it'll really help. So now we've looked at your hives, what you need to set your hives up, your boxes, all your equipment. We also have shown you where to put the hive, a good location for it. Now let's talk about the maintenance that you're going to have. Once you get the bees in it, you're going to have some maintenance to do. And some of the problems you're going to run into is hive beetles. This is a beetle trap. It's a real common beetle trap. There's several different kinds. This is the kind that I use, called a beetle blaster. You're going to have varroa mites, which is kind of like a tick on a dog, and they really hurt they take fat off of the bee, and they really hurt the bee. So they're going to be your #1 problem. And so there's several different ways of doing that. You're going to have wax moths, and wax moths tend to lay eggs, and they go through and eat some of the wax and run your comb and run your honey. It's just a mess. You're also going to have, on those, you're going to have swarms. Your bees are going to try to reproduce, and you're going to have swarms, so swarm control is important. And you're also going to have dearth, which is a time that they aren't bringing stuff in for them to eat. So those are all things you're going to run to in your maintenance, and those are items that I am going to cover in upcoming videos. If there's one or two of those things that you'd like to see first, leave a comment in the comments section, and I'll cover those next. The main thing about your dearth is when you're coming into your honey flow. So you've got your honey flow coming in spring. That honey flow is going to last a couple of months, and then you're going to pull your honey off. Okay, and at the end of that time, then you're going to leave just a little bit of honey on for them. They're going to be bringing small amounts in. They're going to do okay until fall. And then in fall, you're going to have another smaller flow, which I usually leave on for the bees for winter time, so you don't have to feed as much, if at all. And so you're going to have 2 flows. Some people take the honey flow off. I don't. I leave it for them, and then you're not feeding as much, if any at all. So those are things that's kind of how your season will go, and then you'll come out the next season. And I've covered some of the spring maintenance stuff. I'm still covering it right now, and so you can look at that if you do get a hive this year, and you still have plenty of time to get things going. The nukes will come off here about April 15th here in Oklahoma, and most of your nuke sales are in that time, and you'll be able to set it up. So I appreciate you watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Send me some comments. I really appreciate it. Thank you.